Hello and welcome to the Chinksey Sports Presents the Premier League show. We are back again for episode 26. Firstly, for the Ado segment, I just want to congratulate Qatar after they won their second consecutive Asian Cup in which they hosted. And also congratulations to the 2024 AFCON hosts and winners Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, who won their third African Cup of Nations title. Both outfits were probably fifth or sixth favourites to triumph in their respective tournaments that they hosted. Anyways, without any further ado, we go straight into last weekend's opening fixture, which was between Manchester City and Everton. Manchester City were made to work hard for their 13th win from the last 14 and the 10th win in a row in all competitions. They have since beaten FC Copenhagen in the Champions League last 16 to make it 11 from 11. Everton were dogged and determined and held Man City for 70 minutes before Erling Haaland got on the score sheet to bag a brace which sent City to the top of the Premier League table momentarily for a few hours. His first goal was a thunderous strike with his weaker right foot after the ball fortuitously fell into his path from a corner kick, and his second came from a counter-attack after Everton, who were forced to open up as they pressed for an elusive equaliser, were punished after Haaland brushed aside 21-year-old Carlisle-born Jared Bramthwaite, who we spoke about on last week's podcast. Before the Norwegian hitman calmly slotted the ball past Everton stopper Jordan Pickford. Everton are now winless in 7 Premier League games and only have a solitary win in their last 11 matches in all competitions, which was against Monday's opponents, Crystal Palace, who they face off with in a crunch must-win relegation 6-pointer. Okay. Straight into the second game, which was a 3 o'clock kickoff between Wolves and Brentford. Thomas Frank's Brentford side grabbed an impressive coupon buster of a result against the Wolves side, who the previous week had just beaten Chelsea 4-2 at Stamford Bridge. Even more impressive is they managed to do so with a mere 30% possession. Brentford took a well-deserved lead from yet another set piece through Danish midfielder Christian Norgard to take a 1-0 lead going into half-time. Wolves, poor throughout, thought they'd equalise through Craig Dawson, but the goal was ruled out for offside. With Brentford defending resolutely, they held out and grabbed the crucial second with their talisman Ivan Toney scoring his third goal in 4 games since his return to action from his ban. The Bees, with that win, are now 6 points clear of 18th place Everton with a game in hand. So that was a vital win for Brentford, who are in the midst of a tough run of fixtures. And yeah, that gives them a little buffer over their relegation rivals. Okay, following that was another 3 o'clock kickoff at Craven Cottage between Fulham and Bournemouth. That ended 3-1 to Fulham. It took Fulham only 5 minutes to punish Bournemouth after a woeful defensive slip from Lewis Cook allowed and enabled 31-year-old Jamaica international, here goes, Bobby Decordova-Reid to open the scoring for the Cottagers. I finally got his name right. I butchered it last week, if you remember. Willian, who was as excellent as he has been throughout his Fulham spell, crossed in a dangerous cross, which Decordova-Reid headed in for Munoz to pounce home. It appears the better Bobby does, the more practice I get in pronouncing his name. I've said it about 3 times today. With Bournemouth down 2-0 at the break and seemingly out of contention, just 5 minutes into the second half, a left-footed in-swinger from Marcus Tavernier, whose brother James plays for Rangers, I believe captains the side, his cross wasn't cleared away from the Fulham defence. So it was their turn to defend poorly, only for Bournemouth's Argentine defender, Marcos Senesi, to halve the deficit. Game on. Well, it was for a mere 2 minutes before Willian, who is definitely definitely Fulham's best player, putting a fantastically inviting ball into the box for his compatriot Rodrigo Muniz to bag what was his second goal of the match and the last goal of the game. That puts him 3-3. These two sides are well matched, and it's little wonder that the pair are landlocked in mid-table in 12th and 13th position respectively, with neither likely to go down or qualify for European competition. Okay, another 3 o'clock kickoff was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium between Tottenham Hotspur and Brighton Hove Albion. That ended 2-1 to the home side. In the opening embers of the match, anyone from Brighton, don't let that go over your head. Feel free to Google it. Welbeck rolling back the years caused sheer havoc to the Spurs defence. His link-up play with Facundo Buonanotte brought about a penalty following a rash challenge from Mickey van der Ven. Up stepped the ever so reliable and underrated Pascal Gross, who buried the ensuing penalty into the back of the net, which gave Brighton a much-deserved 1-0 lead going into half-time. Ange Postecoglou's Spurs side unbeaten in their last 5 league games since these two last met, so Brighton were the last team to beat Spurs in the league, were played off the park unceremoniously. Both keepers, Jason Steele and Vicario, made a string of saves, but it took until just after the hour mark for Tottenham to equalise in the 61st minute. The nature of the goal was lucky, as Pape Matar's effort came off of Lewis Dunk and ricocheted off of the post, only to fall right into the former's path again. And this time, the Senegalese midfielder didn't need 2 bites at the cherry. 1-1. Spurs manager Ange Postecoglou didn't rest on his laurels and rolled the dice. After that equaliser, and sensing the momentum shift, made a triple substitution of Brennan Johnson, Yves Bissouma and Heung-min Son, who Spurs will be delighted to have back to supplement the front line, and informed striker Richarlison. Deep into stoppage time, Welsh forward Brennan Johnson buried a defence-splitting pass from Spurs and South Korea captain Son to complete a smash-and-grab victory for the North Londoners as the Lily Whites ran out 2-1 victors. Following that was another 3 o'clock kickoff, this time between Liverpool and Burnley. It ended 3-1 to the Reds, with Liverpool missing their bona fide first-team stalwarts Alisson, Ibrahima Konate, Dominic Szoboszlai and Mohamed Salah. Jurgen Klopp had little option but to shuffle his pack of cards, with Quevin Kelleher, Jarrell Quansah and Wataru Endo all coming in for those 3. If Burnley were going to pull off the mother of all shocks, then the time to pounce was now. Diogo Jota, listed as being between 5'9" and 5'10", is as deadly as they come in the air, and as he is in the box, leapt highest to convert Trent Alexander-Arnold's perfect corner kick to put Liverpool 1-0 up after just half an hour. With Manchester City in top spot at that point, the onus was on Liverpool to respond, and they did. It looked like they were doing so anyway at that point. Cue another goal from a corner, this time from Burnley, who equalised after Dara O'Shea, the Irish international, Republic of Ireland international, leapt like a salmon to score one of the best headers you will ever see, which meant Burnley went into the break at 1-1, and it was nothing less than they deserved. At half-time, Jurgen Klopp's bold and cavalier move to bring on Harvey Elliott, a midfielder, for the injured Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's now out for a month, proved a masterstroke as the former Fulham man tore through the heart of Burnley's defence and squared for Luis Diaz to score. The Colombian is now becoming a specialist in scoring scrappy goals, adding to his ever-so-growing repertoire. Harvey Elliott, instrumental in Liverpool's second goal, the one I just mentioned, was at it again as he crossed in for Darwin Núñez to make it 3-1, meaning that all 3 of Liverpool's forwards were now on the scoreboard. Burnley were made to pay for their profligacy in front of goal after Wilson Odubert and their on-loan Chelsea forward David Datro Fofana missed a hatful of chances to equalise when the game was poised at 2-1. So Liverpool won that game to return to the top of the league where they currently sit. Okay, following that was the 5:30 kickoff at the City Ground between Nottingham Forest and Newcastle United. That ended 3-2 to Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes, who many will view alongside Alexander Isak to be Newcastle's best players and most saleable assets, bagged a brace as Newcastle finally exacted their revenge on a Nottingham Forest side who they lost to 3-1 just 2 months prior. His first goal was a tremendously cleanly struck volley after he ghosted into the box, but that was quickly cancelled out by Anthony Elanga's composed and clinical strike after showing electric pace to get into that position. I knew Elanga was quick, but I didn't really realise he was that quick. He's lightning fast. Sebastian is certainly not sharing, and with his third goal in 3 games, Sebastian Schär that is, put Newcastle ahead, only for Elanga's partner in crime, Callum Hudson-Odoi, to equalise again in the first half added time after a deflective strike, wrong-footed Newcastle goalkeeper Martin Dubravka, with the score at 2-2 going into half-time. In the 66th minute, Bruno Guimaraes successfully read and cut out an attempted through ball from Anthony Elanga and buried the ball beyond the despairing home debutant Matt Sells. The Newcastle win sees them climb into 7th position, just 5 points off of Man United in 6th, with Nottingham Forest knowing that they're now potentially a loss or a draw away from dropping into the dreaded bottom 3. Okay, another 3 o'clock kickoff was between Luton Town and Sheffield United. That ended 3-1 to Sheffield United, a shock coupon-busting result. Luton Town, for arguably the first time this season, took to the field as strong favourites against a Sheffield United side who have been rooted to the bottom of the table for the vast majority of the season and whose form has been growing exponentially worse by the week. Just the other week, they endured a 5-0 home drubbing to Aston Villa, with the Hatters racking up a series of corners, 13 to be precise, and having over 75% of the possession. Rob Edwards will be ruined this result and could look back at it with regret come the end of the season. Gabriel Osho, who had been a consistently good performer this season and a mainstay in this Luton side, was torn to shreds by Cameron Archer, who displayed good pace and strength to put the Blades ahead. A penalty apiece from both sides were converted by firstly James McAtee of Sheffield United and Carlton Morris of Luton Town to halve the deficit, with the scores now 2-1 to Sheffield United. Luton huffed and puffed to find that elusive equaliser, but Blades forward Vinicius Souza killed off the game after finishing a deadly Blades counter-attack. Sheffield United, remarkably and against all odds, saw themselves become the first team this season to beat Luton away from home by more than a solitary goal, as it ended 3-1, and also saw them overtake Derby's 2008 points haul of 11 points. Can they do the unthinkable and stay up? Can they do the unthinkable and stay up? No, they can't. Okay, right, Sunday's fixtures. Right, there was only 2 on Sunday. First of which was the early kickoff, the 2 o'clock kickoff at the London Stadium between West Ham United and Arsenal. It ended 6-0 to the Gunners. The key to this game was always going to be how quickly or whether or not Arsenal could open up West Ham defence to force West Ham to come out and play, which would leave space and gaps for the likes of Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard to exploit. Well, it took William Saliba just that, After half an hour, he headed home from a Declan Rice corner kick. Declan Rice has been on corners since Arsenal returned from Dubai. And he has racked up a few assists in that short space of time. A superb Trossard through ball forced a foul from Alphonse Areola on Saka, resulting in a penalty being awarded. Saka had the opportunity to redeem himself after last season, where the England forward missed a crucial penalty, with the game at that stage 2-1 to Arsenal. Saka missed, Jared Bowen went up the other end and scored, and the rest is history, as they say. But this time, Saka's converted the penalty to make it 2-0 to Arsenal. And the game was seemingly over. Well, it certainly was after Declan Rice fizzed in an inviting free kick straight into the corridor of uncertainty, a nightmare for goalkeepers, to be headed in by Gabriel Magalhaes. And yeah, once it was 3-0, the game was over. Once Trossard added a fourth goal to make it 4-0 at halftime, it was pertinently clear that Arsenal meant business, and once they smelt blood, they went in for the kill. Saka bagged the fifth to make it 5-0 before former Hammers captain capped off a captain's performance with a screamer for Arsenal's sixth, and probably for me the goal of the game, just better in Trossard's goal for the third. His celebrations were muted out of respect for his former club and teammates. I feel that he's a rare breed and a modern throwback to the likes of Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane, and Steven Gerrard, with his ball-winning ability and aggression, as well as his quality on the ball. Late on in the match was even an opportunity for 16-year-old wonder kid Ethan Nwaneri, not 17 till March, to make another appearance for the club, and he looked impressive. Definitely Arsenal's best performance of the season, and almost certainly their best performance under Mikel Arteta. Devastating. Okay, so the second of two matches on Sunday was at Villa Park, probably the game of the weekend. Manchester United continued their concerted push towards the top four with a 2-1 win at Villa Park to slash the gap between the two sides to just 5 points. After another last gasp winner, which some may say was a smash and grab. But there's an art to winning games if you're not playing well. Something they used to do an awful lot under their great manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, back in the day. When United took the lead against the run of play through their informed Dane, Rasmus Højlund, who now has 5 goals in his last 5 games, scoring in every single game, Villa didn't relent. They kept playing their football and were rewarded for it when Douglas Luiz smashed home from close range after a chaotic pinball sequence took place inside the United box following a Villa corner kick. With the game evenly poised at 1-1 and up for grabs, Scott McTominay, whose strength and potency in the air, as well as his knack for late goals, reminds me of Marouane Fellaini, came off the bench to score a crucial winner 4 minutes from time to give United a vital win and kept them in the hunt for a top 4 place, especially after rivals Tottenham had also won. United live to fight another day, and with Luton tomorrow, whereas worryingly for Villa, they now have lost 3 home games on a spin in all competitions and go up against an informed Fulham side now at Craven Cottage. Okay, so Monday's game and the last fixture of the week, the jam-packed week, was at Selhurst Park. In the week where Bob Marley's film One Love came out and 2 days before Valentine's, no love was lost between Chelsea and Palace fans, and the only time would tell whether it was love or lust for Pochettino, because the love had long been lost for Roy Hodgson. Feel free to rewind that. So, if that went over your head. Don't worry about a thing, cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Chelsea rang out throughout the game. Chelsea were passive and pedestrian throughout the first half, trailed an understrength Palace side 1-0 after a stunning strike from the former Bournemouth midfielder Jefferson Lerma put Palace 1-0 up. However, at half time, with Christopher Nkunku coming in on for the ineffective and inconsistent Noni Madueke, Chelsea improved significantly. It didn't take them long to equalise through Conor Gallagher, who alongside Cole Palmer has been Chelsea's most consistent player this season. Chelsea were made to wait until second half added time, in which they came on strong and bagged 2 late goals through Conor Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez, capitalising on a Crystal Palace capitulation. That is a mouthful, that. They've become renowned for conceding late goals in gluts. That win for Chelsea was remarkably their 14th in a row against Crystal Palace in all competitions, a run that spans over 6 years. I guess it's tradition now. Palace, who were missing key players like Ebere Eze, Michael Olise and Mark Guehi, a former Chelsea trainee, fielded some raw and uncooked youngsters like Adam Wharton, Daniel Munoz and Mateus França, who showed glimpses of his talent but gave the ball away a lot and was quite erratic. Okay, so that was the last of last week's fixtures. And to sum up last week, I'd say it was a unique in the sense of the amount of shock results that we had. From Brentford beating Wolves 2-0 at Molineux, who themselves had just come off the back of an impressive win at Stamford Bridge the previous week, to Sheffield United picking up just their 3rd win of the season at a Luton side who had just gone 6 games unbeaten in all competitions and were perhaps expected to win that game comfortably. Add to that, last Sunday's results were shocked to a lesser extent, with Arsenal beating a West Ham side they were winless against in 6-0, and Manchester United beating Aston Villa away from home to register what was their first away win against a top 9 side in their 18th attempt. So of my predictions, didn't fare as well as in previous week. I got 5 out of 10 with 0 correct results. But I'll take that considering the volume of unusual shock results that we had in that game week. Okay, finally into this weekend's fixtures. Starting off at the GTEC Stadium in a game currently kicking off. I actually have no idea what the score is. Brentford, buoyed by their brilliant win over Wolves, will see this as a match. We'll see this match as an opportunity and a free hit. They should have Congolese forward Yohan Wissa back from international duty, with Cameroonian forward Brian Bremo still sidelined through injury. I'm expecting Neil Maupay, who is got three goals in 4 games. No, Neil Maupay and 3 goals in 4 game striker Ivan Toney to lead the line for the Blues. And yeah, I checked the lineups. I believe both were starting with Wissa on the bench. Liverpool bounced back from their disappointing defeat to Arsenal with a routine victory over Burnley, go into this banana skin of a match knowing that given Manchester City's current form, anything but a win will leave their title hopes in jeopardy. Jurgen Klopp hates early kickoffs, but has the likes of Mohamed Salah, Joe Gomez, Ibrahima Konate back in contention, and Konate was in the starting lineup. Mohamed Salah and Joe Gomez were on the bench. Alisson still out through injury. However, I think that Brentford could potentially catch Liverpool out cold, and I'm gonna go for a Brentford win. I think the front 2 of Brentford can cause Liverpool problems, and I'm gonna go for a 2-1 shock win for Brentford. Okay. The first of our 3 o'clock kickoffs sees Arsenal take on Burnley at Turf Moor. Burnley, who have 1 win in the last 11 games in all competitions, are probably coming up against an Arsenal side who are at the pinnacle of their game right now. especially given how the last few weeks have gone for them. They're currently 4 from 4. Since returning from Dubai, Arsenal have racked up 4 consecutive league wins, scoring 16 goals in the process. So confidence will be sky high, as the last 2 fixtures have no doubt been Arsenal's best performances of the season and under Arteta's tenure. So I simply cannot look beyond Arsenal winning this game comfortably and scoring at least 3 goals. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Arsenal. Okay, in the next game we have Newcastle United against Bournemouth. I think this is going to be a good game of football full of goals. Informed Newcastle, who have won 3 from 4, scoring 12 goals in the process, look confident and full of goals right now. Whilst they're some way off the pace in terms of the Champions League positions, 10 points to be precise, if they harbour hopes of securing European football for next season, then they should be beating Bournemouth at home. A Bournemouth side that did win the previous match between these sides, however, of recent have found wins hard to come by, winless in their last 5 league games. Bournemouth won't go down, but the sooner they get the 2 or 3 wins they need to ensure their Premier League survival, the better, as it's dog-eat-dog down there beneath them, with every team below them likely to start picking up points in the coming weeks. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Newcastle, with the likes of England hopefuls Anthony Gordon, Callum Wilson and Dom Solanke getting themselves on the score sheet. Okay, this game is an interesting one between Fulham and Aston Villa. With Aston Villa's poor form getting worse by the week, things don't get any easier for the Villains, who have won just 3 of their last 10 games in all competitions, as they take on a Fulham side who have lost just once in their last 5 in all competitions, after dispatching of Bournemouth with consummate ease last week. With Rodrigo Muniz finally settling down at Craven Cottage after bagging 3 goals in the last 2 games, you wouldn't bet against him adding to that today. While Villa will probably be slight favourites amongst all the bookies, I think Fulham will edge them out and condemn Villa to their 3rd successive defeat. So I've gone for a 2-0 win to Fulham. The game between Nottingham Forest and West Ham United should be another interesting game. I think both sides really need to stop the rot. Both are in poor form. Forest, after a promising start to life under Nuno Espirito Santo, are now winless in 5 league games and are struggling for form. West Ham, with manager David Moyes' contract up at the end of the season, will be looking for a response after their humiliating 6-0 defeat at home to Arsenal. That being said, there's still a lot to play for West Ham. They're still in the Europa League and can still challenge for a top 6-7 position in the league, which will be considered a very good achievement given the teams that they're competing with, such as Manchester United, Chelsea, Aston Villa and Newcastle United, are probably better than them. Or certainly have better squads than them for sure. Nottingham Forest always seem to be on the wrong end of a topsy-turvy 3-2 game. Will be looking to win to move away from the drop zone, but I don't think they'll get one here. After last week's aberration against Arsenal, there's no way that David Moyes will allow his side to open up and take risks, and I think as a result it will be a stalemate with a back-to-basics approach to this game. So with both sides lacking confidence, I think this one's going to be a low-scoring draw, 1-1. Okay, the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Wolverhampton Wanderers, I think it's going to be a good game. With a full-strength Spurs side looking to register their 6th consecutive home league win, they'll be wary of the threats that Wolves pose, especially with their front 3 likely to be 3 from 4 of Pedro Neto, Pablo Sarabia, Mateus Cunha and Hwang Hee-chan, who'll probably start from the bench in this one. Spurs, who have been hard to beat of recent, only losing once in their last 7 games, and that was to Manchester City with a late goal. I expect a full-strength Spurs side spearheaded by the likes of James Maddison and Heung-min Son to have too much for Wolves. So I'm going for a 3-1 win to Tottenham. Okay, following that, we have the game between Manchester City and Chelsea, which is a 5:30 kickoff. This season for Chelsea, it seems to be a tale of one step forward and two steps back. A good run of form, which saw them rack up 5 wins from 7 in all competitions, came to an abrupt halt at Anfield against their Carabao Cup final opponents, second place Liverpool. They then lost to Wolves at home, 4-2. So they conceded 8 goals in 2 games, which is a shambles. You would have been forgiven for thinking that Mauricio Pochettino's job was on the line at that stage. Chelsea then probably produced their best performance of the season in a 4-4 draw against City at Stamford Bridge earlier on in the season. But with City on the back of an 11-game winning streak, they know that 2 home wins in the next 3 days will put them top of the league, having played the same amount of games as fellow title challengers Liverpool and Arsenal, who they face in March. City, who haven't lost to Chelsea in 3 years, have Erling Haaland back and Kevin De Bruyne seemingly on top form. So I can't look beyond a resoundingly comprehensive 3-0 home win to City. So I'm going for a 3-0 to Man City. Okay, the game between Sheffield United and Brighton's an interesting one. With the Blades 7 points adrift of safety and seemingly doomed to relegation, I admire the resilience of Chris Wilder's side for responding to the appalling 5-0 home defeat to Aston Villa with an impressive win over Luton the following week. The pressure was completely off them in that game and all on Luton to win that, which enabled them to play with freedom and attempt things that they perhaps wouldn't have if the pressure was on. Brighton predictably lost at Spurs last week, predictably looked aesthetically pleasing and easy on the eye, and had a lot of the ball, predictably. But with the Seagulls currently in 9th, you could argue that's probably where they're gonna finish, 8th, 9th, 10th at the end of the season. They're still in 2 competitions, so you couldn't really have asked much for them. They're still in the FA Cup and the Europa League. This makes for an intriguing game, a clash of styles. Sheffield United will sit in a low block while Brighton will dominate all the key stats, i.e. corners, shots on and off target, possession, and so on. So it's a question as to whether or not Brighton make that count. When these two played at Bramall Lane in the FA Cup last month, it ended 5-2 to Brighton. And whilst I don't think it will be 5-2 this time, I do think Brighton will emerge victorious again. So I'm going for a 3-1 Brighton away win. So tomorrow we have an interesting game between Luton Town and Manchester United. Luton will be disappointed with their performance last week against Sheffield United, which saw their 6-game unbeaten run come to an abrupt halt. It was also the first time all season that they had lost at home by more than 1 goal, as they're always competitive as a bare minimum at Kenilworth Road, especially considering the run of form that they were on. So it's a non-negotiable that Rob Edwards' side are competitive. Manchester United, on the other hand, have been grinding their way to hard-fought victories with 4 wins on the bounce in all competitions. United will know all too well how hard of a nut Luton are to crack, as they were made to work hard in the 1-0 win at Old Trafford earlier on in the season, in a game they dominated but struggled to score in. I think this will be a similarly tight game in which chances will be at a premium, but I think Manchester United will come out on top with a hard-fought 2-0 away win. Right, for the last game of the week, which is on a Monday Night Football, we have a relegation 6-pointer between Everton, who currently occupy the last relegation spot in 18th place, against Crystal Palace. In recent weeks, I've said on many occasions that Everton would be happy with a point due to the difficulty of the opposition that they had been facing. Poor form and then playing away from home for most of those games. But this game is definitely a must win, or you could argue, and even more so, a must not lose game. With the gap between these two sides currently at 5 points, Everton know a win will drag them out of the bottom three, provided that Luton or Nottingham Forest don't win. With the home side winless in their last 7 games, and away side's solitary win in their last 6 games coming up against rock bottom Sheffield United, it probably screams a draw. Confidence will be critically low for both sides, so whoever gets the first goal in this one could emerge victorious. That being said, with Palace's current injury crisis, I simply cannot see them getting anything out of this one, even if they do score first, like they did on Monday against Chelsea, let alone a win. Roy Hodgson's days appear to be numbered. My prediction is 2-1 to Everton. And actually, I've added in a bonus game, which is the game week 18 game match between Manchester City and Brentford. So Man City's game in hand, which is on Tuesday. Manchester City have won 11 on the spin, and it sees them pitted up against Brentford, a side who did the double over them last season. But on the other hand, a side they dispatched of just 12 days ago. City will want to go into March with maximum points as they face arch rivals Manchester United, followed by Liverpool at Anfield, their bogey ground, then Brighton away, and then Arsenal at home, not to mention Aston Villa in early April. So those 5 games back to back will be so difficult for Manchester City. So they're gonna want to attain maximum points going into that run of fixtures. You just feel that if City can successfully navigate those matches, the title is theirs to lose. Brentford, on the other hand, who play Liverpool as we speak, will see this game as a free hit, and at the very least will give City's bloody nose. But I don't think it'll be enough to stop them picking up 3 points. So I've gone for a 3-1 win to Manchester City in that game. So yeah, a lot of matches this week. We also have midweek fixtures next week. So I will be back on Tuesday. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And see you on Wednesday even. Bow!